All right, hi everyone. My name is Daymi Pelaez, and we're going to be going over unwanted effects of reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. Okay, I'm going to move on to the disclaimer. ABA Exam Academy was created by and for students to earn their BCBA, BCABA certification. Most of the leaders and participants are not a BCBA or BCABA at this time. These meetings are meant to have active discussions, to collaborate, ask questions, and provide helpful suggestions to better understand the BACB 4th edition task list concepts. Due to this, it is important to know that all viewers and participants are responsible to verify the accuracy of the information being provided in order to successfully prepare for the exam. So ethical considerations that we have are to refrain from sharing any BCBA, BCABA test questions, refrain from sharing any paid resources, or sharing any type of specific identifiable client information. And if you're sharing any kind of open resources, make sure to give credit to the author always. Since we are students in the field of ABA, we need to act in a professional and ethical manner at all times. So we have some rules. Make sure to mute your microphones if you are not speaking. Again, only if you are not speaking. That way we don't have any kind of background noise or anything like that. Number 2, allow the leader and all participants in turn to speak. Number 3, be respectful and refrain from using any kind of inappropriate language. And number 4, as always, have fun. All right, so just made this up today, but I was like, it sounds good. So a little mission statement for you guys. We want to help you ace the ABA exam. So if you guys need help, it's crunch time, guys. Few of you only have a week, some maybe 2, maybe 3, but it's crunch time. We're at the end. So ask for help if you need it. The agenda for today are 3. So basically they're the same, but they're for reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. So it's state and plan for possible unwanted effects of reinforcement, state and plan for possible unwanted effects of punishment, and state and plan for the possible unwanted effects of extinction. All right, we're gonna move on. And we're gonna start from the very beginning. So we're going to take it very easy, and then we're going to get more complicated, okay? So what does it mean to state? So when we say state and plan for the possible unwanted effects of reinforcement, what does it mean when you say state? What do we have to do in the exam when they say state? Anyone?
Say it.
State, so say it, you said?
Yeah, when you state something, you're saying it.
Okay, anyone else have any ideas?
Make sure that it's noted what the effects of either reinforcement, punishment, or extinction, the unwanted effect.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, so you guys are kind of on the right track. Someone in the chat wrote identify, and that person is correct. So who was that? Let's see. That's the word I was looking for. Faltomata. Okay, so you're correct. So I put identify or recognize. So obviously if you're in the exam and there's a scenario and they tell you to state the unwanted effect, they're not gonna have you talk about it. They're not gonna tell you to say it. They're gonna make you identify it. So find it on there and then basically choose the right answer. So you just have to learn to find it, to identify it. All right, the next question is, so what does it mean to plan? So the next part of the question is plan. What does that mean for our situation in ABA?
It means to.
What would you do?
Prepare for.
Okay, so I heard what will you do? What else? Someone else says something.
Prepare for.
Prepare for, okay, that's what I was looking for. And one more word I'm looking for. For prepare is 1. All right, I'll just give it to you.
Apply? How would you apply it?
Apply, yes. Awesome job. You said it right before I took it off. So prepare and apply. So if you get a scenario, think about it. First, you have to state it. So that's, you need to identify and recognize it. And then you have to prepare and apply. So the exam is all about that. You need to not just know the terminology, but you need to know how to apply. Okay? So you need to know how to apply whatever we're doing to the specific scenario. All right. So this is just a funny little screen that I made of unwanted effects. So behavior gets worse before it gets better. When I first started as an RBT, it's a funny story because had a few very difficult cases, but obviously as an newly certified RBT, you know, I didn't know what to expect. BCBA's always told me this. It always gets worse before it gets better. So I have never forgotten it, and I keep it in the back of my mind, and I even use it when I get newly certified RBTs for them as well. So there's an angry lady. Behavior gets worse before it gets better. Always keep that in mind. All right, so first one that we're going to do, state the possible unwanted effects of reinforcement. Okay, I'm gonna read off a list. I can read the first two, and if you guys wanna help me out, we can do that, and then we're gonna go over one example. All right, I'm gonna read the first two. Reinforcement of maladaptive behaviors or addictions, bad habits, awkward behaviors, or anything, etc. One behavior may have suppressive effect on other behaviors. Who wants to read the next two?
Fixation with rewards, too many requests, competes with desired behavior.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay. The next two, anyone? Any volunteers? I have 14, 15 people here.
Limited responses to treatments like conditions. Only emit behavior in certain situations, only with BCBA or RBTs. Extrinsic contrived rewards not pinned to natural reinforcers.
Okay, and then, does anybody want to read the last one?
Sure, I will. Behaviors
Awesome.
receive continuous reinforcement without proper thinning. Have high expectations.
Okay, so after I read all of that, I thought of this example, okay? Publix has a very good marketing technique, and I don't know if you guys have noticed that, if you guys have kids of your own or clients that have, that you've taken to Publix, but they give kids cookies, okay? And with our situation, kids pair the cookies with Publix, okay? So this is something that is an unwanted effect, because obviously they're going to want to go to Publix over going to Target or over going to Walmart or going to any other supermarket. Okay, so this is an unwanted effect that would happen if you take them there and then they don't want to go to any other supermarket. They just want to go there. Okay. Another one that I thought about when I read this one is that sometimes you get limited responses to treatment. And maybe in someone else's, maybe someone else has the same situation, but like I've had parents tell me, my child doesn't speak to me. They only speak when you're here, things like that. So that's also another unwanted effect. Does anybody have any other type of unwanted effect of reinforcement that they can, an example?
I guess another unwanted effect of reinforcement would be if the client is not only fixated on the reinforcement item itself, but on the delivery of it and who's delivering it. So, you know, instead of focusing on the task at hand, they're kind of fixated on, oh, you know, when am I getting it? Does it, you know, is it this color? Is it that color? How long am I going to have it?
Right. Yeah, and things like you said, fixation with rewards. A child that gets a reward every single day over a child that's getting probably a better reward once a week. You know, sometimes they get fixated, oh, I have to get something every single day. Even though it's a small item, they'd rather get something every single day than get a bigger reward and just wait, like have a delay. So sometimes they get fixated on that. Does anybody else want to share anything before I move on or have any questions?
I think something as simple as maybe going on a trip and the kid continuously asks, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? That is an unwanted effect also.
That's right. And I've had that situation many times also. Even with my own kids, I've had to tell them like the day before we go to Disney, oh, we're going to Disney tomorrow. Because if I tell them a week before, every single day, they'll be asking me, oh, so when are we going to Disney? Also, when are we going to Disney?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So that is specifically to state. So and you saw in the beginning that I broke down state and plan. So now we're going to move on to plan for reinforcement. So plan for the possible unwanted effects of reinforcement. Okay, so I'm going to read the two and then you guys can help me out. Plan how reinforcers change to natural reinforcers. Fade thin schedules, increase the time delay. You can get it when you get home. So moving from contingency-based behaviors to rule-governed behaviors. Okay, does anybody want to read the next one?
I will.
Go ahead.
Measure other wanted behavior rates to treatment implementation. So use non-harmful reinforcers.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, anybody want to read the next two? And then I'll read the last one.
Sure. Vary reinforcers and schedules. Conduct preference and reinforcement assessment more often. And reinforcers do not compete with desired behavior.
Thank you. Last one is reinforce responding to varied stimulus conditions, different situations, settings, subjects, etc. So I spoke about Publix and the cookies. One strategy you can use to fade away from that is maybe instead of going to Publix every single time you go shopping for food, you can go one time to Target and then the next time to Walmart and then the third time to Publix, and then they can have their cookie. That way they don't get fixated on every single time we're going to go to Publix because you paired Publix with the cookies. Okay, so that's delaying. That would be part of fading, thinning, and delaying. Does anybody have any other examples of plans or ways to deal with unwanted effects?
Well, I had one where I was worked with the family so that the child would receive his iPad after dinner for for not scripting at the table actually, and we had to fade the timer to just an announcement that dinner's now over. You can go do whatever you want.
Wonderful. That's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody want to give another example? Okay, we'll move on. All right, the next one is state the possible unwanted effects of punishment. So this is just strictly stating, okay? The first one is emotional and aggressive reactions, escape, avoidance, decrease in desired behaviors. Then we have behavioral contrast, increase in undesired behaviors, and then punishment may involve undesirable modeling, okay? Does anybody want to read the next two? Oops, these two.
I can. Negative reinforcement of the punishing agent's behavior. Immediate results are reinforcing of the punishing agent, parents, teachers. Resurgence. Stop punishing the behavior over time. It comes back.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, two more, and then I'll read the last two. Someone else.
I can read it.
Thank you.
Increase in escape avoidance, avoid person, setting, etc. Stimulus generalization, punishing stimuli is a reminder the person of difficult situation.
Thank you so much. Who is this?
It's Erica.
Erica. Okay. New voice. The name sounds familiar though. Have you been here before? Through chat?
Yes, mostly on
Okay.
chat.
Mostly on chat, yeah.
The baby's actually sleeping.
Thank you for
tonight, so
sharing.
okay. No problem.
Okay. All right. Habituation and adaptation. Repeated punishment that has results of not having an effect. An example, a child in timeout daily then says, I don't care, when they are put in timeout. Has you guys ever had that situation? Of maybe even seeing in your own family or anything like that?
Definitely.
Yeah. Because they get used to that.
Or if you take, like, say, like usually the reinforcer is an edible and then you start putting like a response cost, like, oh, then you're not going to get it. And they really just don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't,
Exactly.
and they're still gonna engage in the behavior anyway, you know.
Exactly. All right, and then the last one is vigilance and cost. So effective punishment has to be done at all times, so it will be costly and effective. So this is one of the main reasons why BCBA, well, in the BACB and our ethical code, punishment, we don't focus on punishment, and we usually do it together with reinforcement. It's because of this. It's because it's not something that's natural. We're going to have to be at all times on top of them, making sure that they're not doing it or whatever, because if not, it's not effective, and it's going to be very costly as well. I put a picture here of a clown because I know there's a lot of kids and sometimes even adults that are traumatized with clowns. So when I read stimulus generalization for this specific situation, I thought about that. So what it says is, punishing stimuli is reminder the person of difficult situations. So maybe as a child, they saw a clown and maybe it was scary, or maybe the clown did something they didn't like. So the rest of their life, every time they see a clown, even though it's far away, they might start having specific like behaviors that are inappropriate. So that's an example of that, because I wanted to make sure I clarified that. Does anybody have any other questions about stating punishment? Or want to give any examples? All right. All right, so then when we're planning for the possible unwanted effects of punishment, we are going to have a reaction plan for emotional responses. We are going to inform stakeholders of the possibility. We use punishment along with reinforcement, so together with reinforcement, and knowing that consistent application in all settings and for all occurrences is necessary. Okay, ensure that an alternative behavior is chosen. Measure desirable behavior rates prior to implement. Inform stakeholders and staff to be aware of behavior contrast. Plan for how to deliver punishment. So that's extremely important. I've had so many situations where I tell like response cost, for example, and then they're using response cost all day long or for anything. And that's not the way you do it. So you have to make sure that you explain it to them very detailed and model for them and give them examples. Because if when you leave, let's say you're working with a client for 2 hours, when you leave and the parent's taking over and they're doing it all wrong, it's not effective either. So you have to really take that into consideration. Then we're going to inform stakeholders of the dangers of addiction to punishment. Does anybody know what that means? If not, I can explain. I just want to see if someone else wants to elaborate.
It could be that the person who's delivering the punishment becomes addicted to, the feeling, the satisfaction they get from delivering the punishment.
Right. So a good example nowadays, a lot of parents I've heard them and seen them do is let's say they go to a restaurant, they say, if you keep on acting this way, I'm going to take away your electronics. And then they stop immediately. They stop yelling or talking loud or whatever it is. So it works immediately, but it's reinforcing to the parent. So this is what that's getting to. It's reinforcing to what is the punishing agent. And then that's what they're saying here, that it's like an addiction for adults. Because since it's immediately reinforcing to you, you're going to keep doing it. You guys understand?
Yeah, that's the definition of positive reinforcement. So
right,
while
but it's
providing a punishment, you are reinforcing yourself.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
It could also be like some students who are particularly scared of a particular teacher, or maybe even a parent, and the teacher could say, well, I'm going to call your mom.
Right.
And that could get the child to stop immediately. Or some teachers I know would say, well, I'm going to report you to Miss Smith, and then the
Right.
child stops whatever they're doing instantly.
Right. And so then the teacher would continue to do that.
Right. Until one
Right.
day the child will say, I don't care.
Right. Eventually it'll get to that. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that this is specific to the punishing agent, which could be anyone that's delivering the punishment, an adult, a brother, an older sibling, a teacher, even a therapist. So, all right. So then the next one is inform stakeholders that behavior may return if not consistently punished. So this is where we were talking before about vigilance and cost, about you having to be on top of it and making sure it's being punished every single time. If not, it is not effective. Okay. And then inform stakeholders that client may avoid punishment condition. Stimulus generalization, stimuli that reminds client of punishing condition, which is the situation of the clown. And inform stakeholders that client may become desensitized to punishment and varying punishment is necessary. So desensitization is extremely important. Anybody have any questions for punishment before we move on to extinction? All right. Extinction, state for the possible unwanted effects of extinction. Extinction is a lack of reinforcement. Extinction burst increases rate, magnitude, amplitude, and intensity of behavior. You have spontaneous recovery and slow rate of behavior change. Anything else that you guys can think of, maybe I missed, that I need to put on there?
Extinction-induced aggression.
Okay. I think I missed it. I thought I put it somewhere, but I missed it. Extinction-induced aggression. Does anybody want to give any type of examples on extinction? I have a few on the next slide, but I just want to see if anybody wants to give their own.
Would resurgence be one?
Resurgence? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Resurgence is also for extinction? Or is that just for punishment?
I thought it was extinction, but I can double check.
I think it's extinction.
Okay. All right.
Daymi, should resistance to extinction be on there?
I'm not sure. I'm going to add it just in case. And then if anything, I can remove it. Okay. All right. So when it comes to extinction, we know about the extinction burst. And it, like we said, extinction-induced aggression. So here we have some little girls that are screaming and throwing themselves on the floor. And then we have a man with a closed fist. So he's extremely upset. And I'm going to present this really quick just so you can watch a very quick video about, there's no audio, it's just so you guys can watch. So she knocks on the door opens, she goes in. So it's just a knocking behavior. She knocks again, the door does not open. And then she knocks again. And then she starts banging on the door, but that's still considered a knocking behavior as long as we don't move on to something different like kicking or anything like that. That's considered extinction burst. Does anybody have questions about that video?
I actually sent that video to a family when their kid was going through this, and it really helped them a lot to see it.
To understand.
Uh-huh. It was like beyond me explaining it. They could see it. It was really helpful.
Yeah, it's better. Sometimes you have to see it to believe it. It's very difficult to explain. I have had teachers look at me like I'm crazy. But like I always say, it gets worse before it gets better. And, you know, it takes sometimes a little bit of time depending on the client, but eventually it will get better.
I think a great example in nowadays is like sleep training a lot of parents use on newborns. Like, you know, the old way to do it, like the way my mom did it, was anytime I cried, she'd come and, you know, take me out of my crib. But now, you know, a lot of parents are taught to, you know, let the child cry it out, and eventually then it's not reinforced, you know, they're not reinforced by being picked up by their parent, and then eventually they learn to sleep.
Right. Thank you for sharing that example. Who's this?
It was Alicia.
Alicia, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so then some real life examples of extinction and extinction burst, because they kind of go hand in hand, that I thought about was, so we have the traditional vending machine example that we've heard tons of times. So you put some money, the item starts to come out, but then it gets stuck, and then you kind of like want to start pressing the buttons again, and you kind of press it again thinking that it's going to move, and then you go into the emotional reactions, which is shaking the machine, kicking the machine, things like that. Or the ATM machine, maybe it's not working well, you want to take out some money, but then the money doesn't come out. Something very typical is you putting the wrong password on your phone. You keep putting the password until the phone gets disabled. And then how about if you're going to, you live somewhere, there's no traffic ever, and then you go to do your BCBA exam and you're traveling, and then all of a sudden there's a huge accident and the whole highway is blocked off, and how are you going to act? Extinction burst, right? You got to get there right away. Does anybody have any real life examples for extinction and extinction burst?
Demi Ashley wrote on the chart that she looked up resurgence, and it is extinction.
Okay, perfect. That was Ashley. I just looked at it. Thank you. Thanks, Rita.
Welcome.
Let me add that. Yeah, it's already on there. Okay. All right. Does anybody want to add anything to stating extinction? Okay. We will move on. All right. We're going to plan. So inform stakeholders that the behavior may increase briefly. So I have here the little arrow. Let the parents know, hey, you know, it's going to get worse before it gets better. This, you know, is going to happen. So we need to kind of work it out. And you're going to inform the stakeholders that the behavior may become more intense. How important is it to inform stakeholders? Does anybody know? Like, why is that so important?
Because if they don't know that it's going to happen, then they will respond incorrectly, or not the way you would want them to respond when these behaviors occur.
Right.
They could also terminate the process if you didn't forewarn them what is going to happen, yet it needs to be consistent in order for it to happen.
Right. So those are two very good reasons. Another reason I thought that is also really important is, how about if they don't agree with extinction? I've had a lot of situations where I've told parents, hey, we need to work on extinction. And when I explain what extinction is, that they start hearing, you know, your child might scream for 30 minutes, or your child might maybe slam the door, or maybe start throwing things or things like that. Then they're like, no, I'm not doing that. You know, let's do something different. And then I have to, instead of using extinction, I got to use shaping. So why are you going to go through all the trouble of preparing the plan and putting Extinction on there and, you know, the protocol and training your RBTs and all that if the parents don't agree with it. So that's extremely important to inform them and make sure they agree with the Extinction procedure.
I've actually had the opposite happen where a parent says something about ignoring it, which essentially is Extinction, and I go through the consequences if we do, knowing the parent, and the parent's like, oh, no, never mind, because
Right.
they know they can't, they won't be able to sustain it.
They won't follow through. Yeah, they won't. They know themselves. Some will follow through and some won't. So
Right.
if they know that they can't handle that, then why are you going to do it? It's not effective. Right.
And not only telling them like what happens if they do it, but what would happen if they say they're going to do it and not do it all the way.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Is this Claudia?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm starting to recognize everybody's voice. I like to match voices with names. Okay. So then we inform stakeholders and plan if and when the behavior comes back after Extinction. So correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that spontaneous recovery?
That's correct.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then finally, use reinforcement together with Extinction. So I put here a plus. Always, always, always use reinforcement together with Extinction. All right, next I have a visual graph here. This is from Cooper. It's showing the Extinction burst, Extinction, and spontaneous recovery. So basically,
Daymi, do you have an example of that particular one? Use
which one?
Use reinforcement together with Extinction. Do you have an example? Or does anyone have?
I would think using any type of the DROs, DRA, together with Extinction. So let's say you have a child that always has their iPad and they use their iPad to eat. They have it right before bed. They sleep with it next to them. Instead of having a teddy bear, they have their iPad. You know, they're watching cartoons on it all day long. So obviously if you remove the iPad and have them work for it, then that would be Extinction. And then using DRO and DRA together with that way the behaviors don't become so intensified. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but if anybody has any other example, that would be great.
I think a good example would be aggression that has the function of seeking attention. So a student constantly is hitting a teacher or a staff RBT or whoever to get their attention. So you're going to put that on Extinction, yet you are going to reinforce when they raise their hand and say, I need help, or come here, please.
That's an awesome example. Love it. Thank you, guys. Does anybody want to share any other examples before we move on? Okay, so next I have a quiz. So I put here, are you ready? Quiz time, Team Pavlov versus Team Skinner. I'm not sure if I can do that because I've done it before in the past where I've made teams, but I only hear a few people. If I have more people participating and we're willing, we can do teams. But I have to close the screen because I only have 3 minutes left. So do you guys want to come back? Because I have a lot of mock questions that you guys are going to love.
I don't know. Okay. Should we start it and see what we can get?
We could. But I think it'll probably just be better that we just take turns, because if I do the teams, then, you know, I'm going to lose track of everything. So let's just get started. All right. So let's do matching first. I'm going to take on my little line here. Okay. Matching. So I'm going to start off with reinforcement. No, let's do it the other way around. Okay, I'm going to read the definition, and then you guys tell me what it is. A behavioral effect associated with extinction in which the behavior suddenly begins to occur after its frequency has decreased to its pre-reinforced level or stopped entirely.
Spontaneous recovery.
Spontaneous recovery.
Good job. Okay, next one. An increase in the frequency of responding when an extinction procedure is initially implemented.
Extinction burst.
Extinction burst. Wonderful. All right, next one. When stimulus change immediately follows a response and decreases the future frequency of that type of behavior in similar conditions.
Punishment.
All right, guys. I only have 1 minute left, so I'm going to get out of here. But come back, please. I have a lot of questions, a lot of mocks.
Same link.
Same link.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.